Hey, what's up, guys? Hafiz over here. And today I would like to show you a little tips and tricks on how to answer one of the types of reading question in Ielts, which is the true, false, not given, and how to try and answer them in an efficient manner. Okay, so if you're someone like me who don't like reading, do want to kind of avoid reading a whole lot of passages and waste time before you know it you're out of time. So today I'm hoping that I can show you guys a shorter way on how to answer this question, a shorter, much quicker, much more less brain straining method. All right, so before we get started, couple of simple principles that you have to know when it comes to the true false not given question. All right, it explains explicitly what true means, what false means, what not given means. So in the case of true, you get if the statement agrees with the information. So that would mean if I say I am inspired by Bill Gates, it would explicitly say I inspire Bill Gates, as in those three keywords, not this that sentence. And even if they change it to the synonym, say Bill Gates inspired me, like in a different structure, that doesn't really change anything. It's still using the same keyword, so it still remains true. If it's false, then there's a contradiction. So using the same example, if I say I am inspired by Bill Gates, a false statement will be I am inspired by Steve Jobs, because there's a contradiction of one of the key words. It changes. But if it's a no not given, then there will be an information missing. So maybe it would go along something like this. I am inspired to become a computer engineer. It doesn't say by who, right? So you can't really tell. And in that sense, one of the important keywords is missing. So you have to always keep in mind those three principles in order to determine whether a sentence is true, false, or not given. So let's take a couple of example over here. Now, one of the biggest and most important thing to do when it comes to this type of question is not to spend too much time reading every single thing. So what you need to do immediately is go to the question before you check the passage, and just highlight usually three keywords. You usually only need three. So three keywords that you feel is very essential to the sentence and can help you find it on in the reading passage. So let's take a look at the first example. Here it says the FAA was created as a result of the introduction of the jet engine. So one thing that I do want to note, names are always essential. So we know it's talking about the FAA, and action words, verbs are usually essential as well. Created as a result of the introduction of the jet engine, right? So basically, FAA created jet engine. FAA was created because of the jet engine. So I would highlight those kind of words. Like words, if you take out, the meaning, the essence become different. So let's take a look. All right, how to determine if this is a true or false or not given. Now, we only need to find those keywords. Right? Uh, Whenever a reading passage is kind of this long, it gets very tedious to read. So you need to immediately jump to a keyword you can identify, and it's usually in order. Like you don't have, like, for the first question, don't go searching in the middle of the reading passage or in the bottom. Starts from the very top, usually goes top, middle, bottom, in order. It's not, the test is not that evil. Causes you to become easily paranoid. In some cases, it does. All right. So immediately, you can see here there's already the FAA, which is Federal Aviation Administration, right? Okay. So you have the FAA. Now let's take a look at the second keyword that I or we highlighted, created. Now, when it comes to IELTS, they love playing with synonyms or paraphrasing. So make sure you pay attention to relatively similar words, from the keyword that you highlighted. So in this case, created. So let's take a look if we can find the word created in the same sentence. Okay, an accident that occurred in the skies over the Grand Canyon in 1956 resulted. All right, so resulted is pretty similar. So let's highlight that and check if there's any other similar vocabulary in the establishment of the federal agency to regulate and oversee the operation of aircraft in the skies over the United States. All right. So resulted. There's no other word that's kind of similar to created, right? So let's keep those two. And I do want to point out that usually the three keywords are going to be in the same sentence, right? And I'll tell you how to determine the true, false, and not given in a moment. And the last keyword is jet engine. All right, so let's see if we can find the jet engine word. Okay, so an accident that occurred in the skies over the Grand Canyon in 1956. We can't really find it, right? Um, we found created, we found the FAA, but the object or the subject in this case that's mentioned in this sentence is an accident, not a jet engine, an accident, right? So, how do we determine if that's a false or not given? As I mentioned earlier in the beginning, false will have a contradiction. Now, take a careful look at the question. So, the FAA was created as a result of the introduction of the jet engine. So, when the jet engine was introduced, the FAA was established. Now, in this case, it wasn't the jet engine, it was an accident. So, like I mentioned in the initial example, if I'm inspired by Bill Gates, but it says I'm inspired by Steve Jobs, that's a direct contradiction. So, in this case, we can immediately see there is a direct contradiction in this sentence, which contains two of our keywords, but one of them was changed. So that means question 20 is false. Okay, so false. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, how you simply answer the question true, false, not given. All right, let's jump to the next question and see if we can repeat the same step. Okay, so again with the same step, we need to highlight the three keywords that we feel are essential. We have air traffic control, a name, so that's essential. Started after the Grand Canyon crash. Okay, so Grand Canyon crash in 1956, and then started here. Okay, so we have the object, we have the subject, and we have the action word. So let's try and see if we can find those three in the same sentence. All right, so we can already see air traffic control here. Okay, right. And then we have started. So let's read the whole sentence first. Rudimentary air traffic control existed well before the Grand Canyon disaster, as early as the 1920s. Okay, so we found the Grand Canyon disaster. It says disaster here. In the question, it says crash. Same thing. Okay, so IELTS love to play with the synonyms, but we kind of don't find we didn't find the word start. Instead, here we have the word existed. So ATC already, it's already there way before the disaster, which means, again, similar to the first question, it's a direct contradiction because there are two explicit keywords that we highlight in that sentence, but one of them is changed. Right? The context is still the same. We're looking at the action word, right? Similar to the previous questions where we're looking at the subject. Like the subject was changed. In this case, the verb is changed. So in that case, it's a direct contradiction. So 21 is also false. Okay, so that's already, the second time we tried our method, and we immediately find the answer very efficiently. Next thing, we go to question number 22. Okay, so here we have beacons and flashing lights. I know there are two names, but it's a collective term in this questions, I think. So we need to highlight both are still used by ATC today. Okay, so beacons and flashing lights use ATC today, or I would just use ATC. That would be okay. And as we can just see a glimpse, a lot of ATC are still being discussed in this passage. So let's see if we can find beacons and flashing lights. Oh, okay, we already found it. Already found it. Okay, here beacons and flashing lights. Okay, so one keyword down. Let's read the whole sentence. While beacons and flashing lights were placed along cross-country routes to establish the earliest airways. Now, we don't really get any other keywords in that same sentence. Now, there is ATC here in the beginning of the passage, but that's already kind of separate from what is being talked about in this part of of the passage. So we don't have ATC, nor do we have the word used. We have using here, but that's for lights and flags. So as you can see immediately here, you get the sense that you don't have the information. It doesn't really say, what is if beacons and flashing lights are still used by ATC. Right? It doesn't say until when. Okay, so in that sense, we have missing information. So immediately, and if you're still unsure of this, you can keep going until the end of the passage, not the next paragraph, just until the end of the passage. So let's, for the sake of being sure, let's check. However, this purely visual system was useless in bad weather, and by 1930s, radio communication was coming into use for ATC. Now, it doesn't say beacons and flashing lights were no longer used up to that point, right? So, and if we keep going, it just doesn't work. Okay, so one of the principle I usually stick to is if within that one sentence you only find one keyword or even two, like the other one is nowhere to be seen, you can read more, but it's highly recommended you only read one sentence backwards and one sentence forward. So if you read the sentence prior to the sentence that contained the keywords and the sentence after, and still you don't find that third keyword or that second and third keyword you're looking for, that is already missing. And I promise you, you don't need to read further than that. So in that case, the answer will be very highly likely not given, right? So let's just type the answer here. So this one was false. This one was not given. And with that, you can do a lot of the steps in your mind silently, and you can accomplish what I just did literally within minutes or seconds. Like you're not going to spend 10 minutes on this type of question, I promise you, using this method. And yeah, that's about it for this session. Hope you guys find it useful for whoever is intending on taking IELTS. And believe me, I know how tedious the reading passages can be in IELTS. So this kind of method, I promise you, will ease your burden. Okay, that's all for me. Hope you guys find this video helpful. And if you like any specific requests, please feel free to leave a comments down below and subscribe. Thank you very much. Hope you guys have a nice day.